Hello, I'm Tom Bixby, founder and CEO of EvaluSys, formerly an advisor to small and mid-market companies for nearly 2 decades. Recently, EvaluSys launched a pilot program for EOS professionals. In this video, you'll meet a couple participants in the pilot program, and they'll talk a bit about the experience they and their clients had in using EvaluSys. But first, let me give you some context by explaining what EvaluSys is and the features included in the EOS Pilot Program. So EvaluSys is an online platform of tools used by business advisors for over 10 years to identify gaps in management best practices for small and mid-market companies. Let me share a slide with you here. So you can see here a collection of the Business Wellness Diagnostic Series. These are online evaluations covering topics like business planning, sales, marketing, human resources, finance, product and service innovation, supply chain and logistics, just a whole lot of foundational elements of sound business management. So these diagnostic tools are designed to reveal hidden client needs and challenges and expose gaps in management best practices that could be holding back these companies in their performance and the growth of their value of the business. So they'll also be going through, in addition to the diagnostics, they'll go through a process called goal impact analysis, which places the issues that are revealed in the diagnostic process into context with the company's strategic goals. And it'll compute a goal impact score for each issue to rank the action urgency. How important is it based upon the degree to which these issues could interfere with achieving key goals for our business? So just to give you an idea of what the experience is for the client, they're going to go through this diagnostic process, which is a bunch of question and answer, largely multiple choice. Each evaluation takes probably 15 to 20 minutes to complete. And once they've completed that question and answer process, they'll go into the goal impact analysis exercise, where it's going to identify the problems that were identified in the diagnostic experience and ask them to enumerate the degree to which that problem might interfere with achieving a goal. And the results will wind up calculating a goal impact score, which you can see on the side of the screen. And those goal impact scores can be used to prioritize action to improve company performance and grow business value. So I've invited a couple of people who have been part of the EOS Pilot Program to visit with us today to share their experiences. So let me bring on our two guests, Nick Whitney and John Merrill. Nick and John, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, why don't we start off with just some basic introductions. So Nick, why don't you start off and explain who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Nick Whitney. Many entrepreneurs, they get really frustrated with how their business can dominate their life. So I work with them and their leaders to help them simplify, clarify, and achieve their vision through EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Together, we work and reclaim their freedom, enabling to live their ideal life.
That's awesome, Nick. And just for clarification, you're an EOS implementer, right?
That is correct.
Awesome. And so you were part of the EOS pilot, kind of reflecting that EOS implementer role. And John, why don't you introduce yourself? I understand you're an EOS integrator.
Right? That's correct. I'm John Merrill. I'm an EOS integrator for about 5 years. I was primarily with one company and now a fractional EOS integrator working with others. I'm based in the New York City metropolitan area. However, I've been working with others from around the world. Because we're remote and hybrid, then that makes it possible. And one particular company is international. And so that's certainly an interesting challenge of trying to get different time zones, et cetera, working so that we're working together. But certainly possible. And so certainly wanted to say thank you, Tom, for including me in the pilot. It's certainly been very interesting and including me in this webinar. So thank you.
Absolutely. I thank you for your time that you spent as part of the pilot. So why don't we just kick off with a basic question. So, and for either of you, what was it about your work with EOS clients that made you want to participate in the EOS pilot with EvaluSys?
So I'll start. So for me, I'm always looking for improvement and, finding out what do I not know, looking for ways to improve, both internally and externally. And when I learned about EvaluSys and interest in specifically the pilot, also a key piece for me is helping others. And so helping recognize a tool and how it might help became a win-win of what can I learn from myself and how can I help others. And so it was a natural fit for a win-win to learn more about the perspective of my company.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Nick?
Yeah, all of that. And, so many of my clients, they think that the value of their business is more than what it actually is. And early on in the EOS journey, what we find is that you can't take that owner, that founder, that visionary out of the business and still have it run. So what I love about this notion of having an actual system to help identify those needs that these owners have to get their business to where they want to be and achieve their goals.
Excellent. So tell me, what did your clients learn from the experience that you had with EvaluSys? John, you want to start off?
Sure. So specifically, it was very informative to kind of review and get a broad view. Like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And so having a view into, what are specific questions to look at? Am I looking at the right thing, et cetera? And so what it really did for us is recognize that the particular rocks that we had were the most important. They were the priorities. And so giving confidence that there isn't some area that we're blind to. And so it was particularly valuable to have that confidence.
Excellent. Nick?
Yeah, it's very powerful for rocks, but also for issues, right? In my world, so often issues has negative connotation, right? Problems, challenges, but issues are also opportunities. They're ideas, they're conversations. And so often we get trapped within the four walls, the confines of the business, and we don't think about the window to the outside world. So the big learning that we had is, a data-driven approach when it comes to adding issues to the issues list is powerful, right? It's a way to systematically pinpoint and prioritize which issues will have the highest impact to achieve the vision, right? To achieve rocks, to achieve the one-year plan. And that learning has been important as we continue to increase our rock completion percentage.
Excellent. Thanks. Thanks for that. So based upon that experience and based upon your own experience as an EOS professional, when do you think the right time would be to introduce EvaluSys with an EOS company? Who'd like to start?
I'll start. For me, when I start EOS implementation, there's a lot of stuff that the leadership team has to learn, right? And I worry about overwhelming them too early in the process. But as they continue to have better meetings, they continue to solve issues, they continue to move the business forward, then we can, about 2 years in or so, they're running on all cylinders, right? The 18 months, 24-month period to me is the best time to introduce this. Because one, they've already kind of mastered the foundational tools of EOS, but now they're starting to get stuck, or maybe they just want to level up. Essentially what I found is that this is a SWOT analysis on steroids, right? Every annual planning process, once a year, we do a SWOT analysis to take a look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that are out there, an internal view and an external view. And, this can really take that SWOT analysis to the next level.
Excellent. John, you have something to add?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Nick had alluded to kind of at the 2-day annual, so that annual planning, and that's a great spot. And I totally agree with that, that will help identify. And I like your thought of SWOT on steroids, because, not only are you coming up with those things, but it's probing you. It's asking those questions to make you think about, what else needs to be on the radar. And so that's particularly good. The other thing that I kind of took away from it is you can use the tool in a couple of different ways. To me, some people would get value just reading the questions. They don't have to go through the evaluation, but it gives them an insight of, oh, even if those questions aren't for me, this is what, my peers, or this is what the visionary or whatever, this is how they're thinking about it, or what they should be thinking about. And so I think you can use it, a lot of different ways. And, the typical answer is, it depends. It's going to depend on your team, and it depends how you use it. And are you doing the full goal impact analysis, or are you just using it to kind of see, like, well, what should I be thinking about? So I think it has a lot of flexibility as to how you want to use it for a particular team.
Yeah, and John, to piggyback off that, I was working with a self-implementer last week, and they were struggling with their issues list, right? Their issues list not having enough things to talk about at their weekly level 10 meeting. And what a great way to unlock hidden issues that the leadership team isn't even thinking about,
Right.
to add to those issues list, and visionaries and members of the leadership team who are taking clarity breaks, right? Time for contemplation, to think about the bigger picture. This is a great way to provoke some thoughts on what they should be thinking about. I love that.
Awesome. So, Nick, you're an implementer, and John, you're an integrator. And so, based upon your respective roles, what would be the best way to utilize EvaluSys with EOS companies?
Yeah, so when I think of the role of the visionary, typically that's the founder, right? And this is a great way when they're contemplating exiting or selling. It's really a good way to understand what they're lacking, right? Where the gaps are, whether it's an evaluation gap or a wealth gap. For the integrator, it's all about the goal impact analysis, right? What are the challenges and preventing us from achieving our rocks or our 1 year goals?
John, any other thoughts?
Yeah. So there's certainly not a single right way. And just like, the previous answer of, it depends on your team. It depends on what you need. And so one of the things that I think, as far as, getting a lot out of it, is, again, pick how you're going to use it. But I think the collaborative alignment is huge. And so having each person either looking at questions or evaluating, and then kind of comparing and bringing that together to really get a unified, what's the company answer? Even if different people are answering questions, collaborate so that you do have kind of a unified, what's the company perspective, and that will really help ensure that, the answers are driving the things that the company needs.
That helps a lot. So I understand that the primary goal of an EOS implementer is to effectively install the EOS methods and practices within a company, and to ensure that they're leveraging them to their best advantage. Do you feel like introducing EvaluSys into the mix might cause any kind of distraction, or in any way disrupt successful EOS implementation? Nick, I'll certainly start with you, since you're an implementer.
Yeah, no, not at all. But is an implementer, we have to use our power of discernment to understand when is the proper time, so that, Tom, to what you said, so it doesn't disrupt, right? It's definitely a tool that can be added on when appropriate. If you try to introduce this too early in the process, something's not going to work. It could be one of the foundational tools of EOS, or it could be EvaluSys itself. So it has to be a good implementer knows when to connect their leadership teams to additional resources, and it's all about that power of discernment to know when.
Yeah, and I don't think that's unique to like this particular tool or anything. Like anything, it's something's new and you're getting flooded with information. And so what sticks and what's helpful, and you may see it and know that it exists, and then come back to it later when you have a stronger foundation. And so it absolutely, recognizing, what are the particular needs, and then the timing is right. Said, the tool is presented at the time that the person needs it. That's certainly ideal.
Awesome. One thing I've heard talked about is the concept of EOS Pure. I've heard that talked about both by implementers and integrators. So in your opinions, would EvaluSys in any way compromise EOS Pure?
I don't think so. Not at all. The beauty of EOS is it's a holistic operating system, but it's also completely customizable. But it's a balance to understand that, right? And while this isn't one of the 20 official tools in the EOS toolbox, good implementers will meet their clients where they're at, and they will introduce them to resources that they may need if they're stuck, or if they want to, or like I said before, if they want to level up. So I can definitely see EvaluSys being one of those outside resources for sure, without compromising the purity of EOS.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of another way to say, exactly what Nick said is, EOS isn't like this script of, I got to follow this to the T. Like, if you have a proven process, everybody's process is a little bit different, but you have a process. And so EOS is helping you with ensuring you have a process, and then that unique element that's yours. And so the same thing with the tools of which tools do I need and how do I use them? And so it does not disrupt, staying within EOS Pure.
Absolutely. So what kinds of EOS companies might be best suited to get value from EvaluSys? Is there any particular size, type, industry, et cetera, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think there's I love the rule of three, right? 1, 2, 3. Our brains are programmed to remember things 3 at a time. So I think one, companies that have a visionary that wants to exit in the next 3 to 5 years, it's extremely powerful. I would say that's one. Number 2, organizations that aren't regularly achieving at least 80% of their rocks, right? When we talk about rock and priority and goal setting, we do so with 80% confidence. If you have more than 80% confidence you're going to achieve a rock, you're not stretching yourself enough. And if it's less than 80%, chances are you're not going to hit it, and that's going to drain the energy of the team. So if you're under that 80% mark, the goal impact analysis can be a very powerful way to help you improve that. And then the third is when those issues lists dry up, right? When they're not seeing the bigger issues within the company that need to be making that issues list. That's the third. So 1, if you're contemplating exiting in the next 3 to 5 years. 2, if you're not hitting at least 80% of your rocks. And 3, if your issues list is starting to dwindle to the point where there's hardly any at all.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that is, where my head goes is there's value to any industry, any company that, again, like we were talking about before, where there's different facets to it. And so whether you're using the impact analysis or whether you're just trying to do a SWOT on steroids, and where your team's at, do they need some help with perspective and just kind of seeing things? And so whether you're just kind of seeing what's there versus diving right in, I don't know of any limit where I would not recommend it or it wouldn't hit. The timing is key, but there's not some company that I would say, no, you wouldn't get value out of it. I don't see that.
Awesome. So do you see EvaluSys as completely complementary to EOS methods and practices? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly SWOT is one of the things that is part of the toolbox in EOS. And Nick's already said, it's like SWOT on steroids. So yeah, I definitely see that it complements it.
Great. So maybe I'll focus this on John first. Would an internal EOS integrator have the same experience and benefit using EvaluSys as would an external or fractional type of EOS integrator?
So I think as far as value, like if you're zeroing in the question on the integrator, it would be different. I think I would frame the question as, what's different between the two? And I think it boils down to an internal one really is in the business and doing it. And an external is probably guiding more. and would rely on the team more to answer some of the questions. So I think as far as the value to the company would be the same, but who's answering the questions and how you do that, whether it's more individual, that the internal one would say, I know all the answers and I will use this, versus an external one might say, I don't know the answers, so let me give the sections to different people and kind of help collaborate. So I think the value is there, but it would definitely be administered differently depending on whether you're kind of internal or external.
Yeah, regardless of internal or external, it's a great way to get that integrator and the visionary on the same page, right? It'll help them get up to speed quicker on the issues the business is facing, right? I could see this being powerful as an onboarding tool for new integrators, whether it's an internal one or someone brought in from the outside.
That's great. So, one of the big questions I think always comes up, always when I was doing consulting with clients, how much time is it going to be requiring of the client to be able to go through this process? So based on your experience in the pilot, how much time you think a client should expect to invest in EvaluSys?
Yeah, so there's two parts, right? There's the completing the evaluations of the goal impact analysis, right? And those are typically done fairly quickly, less than 30 minutes, at least in my experience. But the true investment is with the results, right? How deep you want to go into discussing and solving those issues. That's where the time is really best spent.
Yeah, I think the amount of time is also like how deep you go, or how you use it. If it's just a cursory, let me get some data out of it, versus does each team member take it and then they're comparing their information and kind of having a discussion about, well, what is really the priority? So I think the amount of time is certainly going to vary as to what aspects you're really kind of diving into. Which goes back to it depends what you need, and so if you don't have any issues and you're trying to figure out, well, where are the hotspots, that may be very different than I'm going to figure out what are the rocks that we need or what are the goals for the year. And so the amount of time to develop that is going to vary.
That makes sense. So all told, was using EvaluSys value to your client? Valuable?
I'll start with that one. Absolutely. My longest client, we went through the goal impact analysis, and it led to 100% rock completion rate for the first time. And really, it brought out three kind of key issues that were always on the surface, but this shined a light onto them. We realized that impacting the goals was three things: negotiating and closing skills, right? The rate of new idea generation, and then billing problems. They were able to just crush their accounts receivable that quarter. But the big insight that was valuable is the visionary of this particular company has a sales background, right? And the two major issues were with the visionary, new ideas, and negotiating and closing skills. So all it took was redirecting focus, and they were able to have their best quarter ever. It was pretty amazing.
And similarly found value in that, in particular, in our case, it gave the confidence and the validation that the top things that was being focused on were the right things. And so one of the things that's very common is we get distracted with, well, is this a bigger deal? What's up? On the different issues that come up, et cetera. And EOS is designed specifically to help you really focus on the quarter, which is going to give you traction. And so if you're getting distracted by other things, that's going to derail you from what you're really focused on. And so having the confidence that, yep, this is the most important and I'm not missing something, then allows you to focus and stay focused on that. So there's real value instead of kind of wondering or looking over your shoulder or spending time, should we think of something else? So that's definitely a big benefit.
Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe I'll come at that question different way by saying, how might an EOS company miss out in some way if they didn't go through the EvaluSys experience?
So I'll jump on that first and say, so often you don't know what you don't know. And so if you don't do it, like, what are you going to miss? Like, are you going to uncover the things that, oh, well, if we had done this, like maybe some other time at a later date, you'd be like, gee, I wish I had done this sooner. But if you just don't do it, I don't think you're going to know what you necessarily missed. And then, like we're saying before, well, you're trying to uncover things that you don't know. So how else are you going to do it? So that's my take on it.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know, right? That's great, John. There are 6 key components that we strengthen through the EOS process: vision, people, data, issues, traction, and process. And if companies that don't take a data-driven approach in order to uncover the issues that are preventing them from strengthening those 6 key components, there's not going to be as strong, which means there's still going to be issues throughout the business, and it's preventing the leadership team from living their ideal life.
Awesome. Well, I think I'll just wrap up here. Nick and John, I really want to thank you for spending some time on this call to kind of talk about your experiences with the pilot process, but certainly also for taking the time to give it a try with your client and to be able to come back and report on the value that it created for you. So thank you both for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
If you have any questions about anything you heard today, I would encourage you to find more information on the EvaluSys website at evalusys.com/EOS-pilot. They'll give you more information about the EOS Pilot Program that we're offering. And if you'd like to contact Nick, John, or myself, I've identified the links on LinkedIn where you can reach us. I'd encourage you to reach out, ask any questions you might have about what Nick does, what John does, or anything about EvaluSys directly to me. Thank you so much for joining us today.